Hey you guys, super sorry. Technical difficulties and the video didn't record for this week's episode, so it's only going to be audio from for the rest of this episode here on out. And my weird-looking purple-haired face will be back next week, I promise. So thanks for sticking with me. Appreciate you guys, and I hope you enjoyed the episode. Ahoy, and welcome to the Jolly Reader. I'm your host, Captain Book. Hi! It's been a really long time, and I won't bog you down with like all the life updates. I'll do that at the end before the outtakes. But I just want to say at the top, I've gotten messages from people. I think it's been probably over a year since I put out an episode, life and all that. But I just want to say I see your messages. I do want to get around to responding to them. I do appreciate you, and I feel wanted. I feel loved, so I want to get back into it, and I want to start doing videos for you again. So as promised last episode, we'll be starting the book called You'll Be the Death of Me by Karen M. McManus. I don't know where the cover is, but I'm pretty sure I read it in a totally dramatic fashion before this. If I find it, I'll add it in later on. But anyway, things to look forward to. Let's just jump in. A Cheeto-flavored donut, not a sponsor. But if you sell them, totally sponsor me. I'd be down with that. A syringe, multiple school-related scandals. You'll be hearing me rant about that for the rest of my life. And, a dead body and purple shoes. Because it wouldn't be Karen M. McManus without a dead body. Also, we will be doing about a third of the book. And then I haven't read ahead of this part, but I'm going to pre-record everything. So all 3 parts will be coming out 1 week after the other. So over the course of 3 weeks. But anyway, so we're going to do chapters 1 through 10, pages 1 through 112, if you're following along with us. Also, as Karen M. McManus likes to do, we have 3 main characters. So we have Ivy. I like to remember her as Ivy League because she's super smart, what's the word I'm looking for? Like determined to be successful. Then we have Mateo. He is kind of like a poor kid, struggling. He's got some home life issues. We'll get into that. And then we have Cal, who I'm not really sure like how to describe, because originally I thought he was like kind of a nerd, but that doesn't seem to be the situation. We'll get into that. So we start with chapter 1, Ivy. So Ivy's mom and dad are out of town, and they're super perfectionists. Like, they left an 11-page handout telling them what they should do when the parents are out of town, including, like, leave the lights on so someone thinks you're home, things like that. I don't know. As a 90s kid, I was totally like, answer the door, hi, yeah, or answer the phone, my parents are home or whatever. But anyway, there's a ceremony, and her mom's getting some sort of award. I almost feel like I should go back and, like, see what exactly that is, but I'm sure I feel like the book is going to culminate at the end at this award ceremony. But anyway, there's instructions on how Ivy needs to go pick up the mom's dress, and if the plane runs late, how to get the dress and shoes to her, etc., etc. So then Ivy describes her brother named Daniel. He's also, our 3 main characters are seniors in high school. But her younger brother is 16, but he skipped a grade because he's super smart. We get into that. So they're both seniors, and he's better at her naturally at everything. And he's like the favorite. This is all her saying this, but he's like the favorite to the parents. Their parents are rich, so they give them everything, whatever. So they're talking to their parents over Skype, and Ivy seems like off to her mom, and then like she's acting weird, and then Daniel's like cough cough bony. So basically the only thing that Ivy's had going for her over her brother is that she's been the student council president 3 years in a row, which I don't really know how she became council president freshman year. Maybe, I don't know. I digress. But she lost the senior election to someone named Brian Boney Mahoney. We get into that, like his name and his nickname. But he ran as a joke. And then she obviously like ran on legitimate things that she wanted to do for the school. Blah, blah, blah. People vote for him. Teenagers can be nightmares. Sorry if you're a teenager listening. I'm sure you're amazing. So then Ivy asks her parents if she can be late to school in the morning because there's like an election ceremony in the morning. And then like Boney is going to be on stage and be like, thank you for the presidency, whatever. Ivy explains to us that the only time she ever missed school was in the 6th grade. And this story is told multiple times throughout the book. But her, Cal, and Mateo, those are our main characters. In 6th grade, they snuck out of a field trip and wandered around Boston instead of doing the field trip, which no one ever noticed. They never got in trouble. But that is like super insane to me Because I cannot imagine. Okay, one, sixth graders, babies. Okay, I'm really sorry. I'm not trying to be offensive, but like, don't be walking around the city of Boston. Like, what? But anyway, so then she describes Cal, and she describes him as having 2 dads and a hyphenated last name. And then that, his parents and her parents become relevant later on. We'll get there. But Mateo is the one that initiated them sneaking out of the field trip, and they always call it like the greatest day ever, but they were only friends till the 8th grade, and then they all went their separate ways. Their complicated dynamics get explained throughout the story. So back to the phone conversation. Her parents try to reassure her that Brian will resign and she'll take over, like he was just running as a joke. This won't last. She says maybe, and then she explains that like her parents have never failed at anything, so they don't understand like needing a day off. Also, I don't have this in my notes, but she doesn't want the presidency because he resigned. She wants to win it, obviously. Like it's more of a joke to her if she takes over after the joke. So anyway, Ivy's mom tells her that she'll be wearing the dress that Aunt Helen gave her. I think Ivy will be wearing that dress. I don't know, to the award ceremony. But this aunt writes romantic novels. This becomes relevant. So Ivy is responsible for introducing her mom at the ceremony. Not exactly sure why, but like, whatever. She was picked. And she's worried that her mom will think it's a mistake for her to be picked to do it. And then the dad kind of like yells from behind the screen to Daniel and it's like, don't mess with Ivy's notes. And she goes on to explain that during her junior year spring talent show, I don't know what she was originally going to do for the talent, because I don't think public speaking is like a talent show. It's a talent, but it's not talent show worthy. But anyway, Daniel replaced her notes with an excerpt from the aunt's romantic novel, and she gets really nervous public speaking, so she just like kept reading it, and then obviously kids made fun of her and it was really awkward. So anyway, Ivy ends the conversation with her parents by telling her tonight's going to be perfect, everything's going to be fine, mom deserves the world. Then we move on, chapter 2, Mateo. Mateo talks about how he's trying to pick up the slack for his family. He has a cousin named Autumn who has been living with them for 7 years. Her parents died in a car accident from a drunk driver. So then, his name's Mateo. I use voice to write my notes. Like I just say what I want it to write. And it auto-corrected his name to Potatoes. And it auto-corrects Cal to Cow, C-O-W. And then Ivy always turns into I-M-B. So just bear with me. But anyway, Potatoes, a.k.a. Mateo, his mom took an Autumn. Like she was going through a divorce to Mateo's dad at the time. And then Autumn's not even related to the mom through blood. She's related through marriage. So anyway, Autumn works 3 jobs. One is what she calls driving the murder truck, and it's a knife sharpening company for restaurants. So they just go to restaurants and sharpen knives. I didn't take notes on the other 2 jobs. Well, there's one that's like wink, wink, not very good. We'll get there in a second. But she also has a boyfriend named Gabe, and Mateo absolutely hates him. Gabe's taking a gap year. He doesn't have a job. He has an obnoxious car. Like, whatever. So then Mateo's mom also, I don't know the timeline of this, but was diagnosed with osteoarthritis. So she can't work and she can barely walk. So Mateo works 2 jobs, one at a grocery store and one I have at a restaurant, but like later on it's kind of clarified that it's more like a bar. But anyway, Mateo's mom used to own a bowling alley called Spare Me, which chef's kiss to the pun. But anyway, someone, which they later say was a teenager, they slipped on an overwaxed bowling lane and sued, so it left the business bankrupt. And then Ivy's dad, James, bought it because he's like in realty and stuff. Mateo's mad that Ivy didn't tell him or give him a heads up because they used to be friends. So like he felt like she should have been like, hey, my dad's buying out your mom, which that seems like a weird ask because 1, I don't even know if Ivy would even know about it. And 2, like I'm not going up to someone I used to. We'll later find out she used to have a crush on him as well. So, like, I'm not going up to you and tell you that. But anyway, Mateo's mom asks if they want to go with, like, if him and his cousin want to go with her to go visit some elderly aunt. I don't know where. In the city, I guess. But they don't both say no because the mom's friend, who's, like, way too talkative, is going to drive. Her name's Christy. She does not come back up in this section, but I wrote it down because you never know. Watch, she'll be a murderer. So then Mateo's mom asks if Autumn picked up her medicine, and Autumn says yes, and then gives her $480 back in change, saying that the version available now is cheaper, so don't worry about it. And Mateo knows that this isn't true, but the mom takes the medicine and kind of is like, whatever, thank you. Then we'll get into why he thinks that's not true as well. But Gabe comes to pick up Autumn. And Mateo's all like sarcastically clapping at the loud engine and stuff. And then Autumn gets this call from Charlie. I don't know. I can't remember if he reads it on her phone or she just says that. But anyway, she declines it. Oh, then he must have, whatever. So she declines it. And then Mateo's like, who is it? And she says, no one. Then he's like, oh, is that one of them? And she says, like, the less you know, the better. And then he asks her, are you making extra stops today, like in the murder truck or whatever? And she says probably, and tells him like not to worry about it. And basically says, like, we take care of our own. I'm going to do this as long as I can. So, like, it's not specifically said, but, like, she's probably, what is the word I'm looking for? Like, she's probably either transporting illegal substances or guns or something, or, like, whatever. She's working for some sketchy stuff, either transporting or selling something to make extra money. Chapter 3, Cal. So Cal is at a weird donut shop. He's eating a Cheeto-dusted Bavarian cream donut, which he goes into excruciating detail about, but it did make for fun things to look forward to. But he's talking about his ex-girlfriend, Noemi. Not sure exactly how important she is. We don't really meet her. She's just talked about. But she was like gluten-free and clean eating, and she would never go to this donut place, and he recently broke up with her. He's like trying to justify why he broke up there. Oh, we have nothing in common. Whatever. Then don't date her in the first place, Cal. Okay. Cal's kind of in a bad spot for me right now. You'll see by the end why he's on my nerves. But, you know, I should give him the benefit of the doubt. But anyway, she says to him, like, it seems distracted. It seems like you're going through the motions. You're a shell of the person. And he kind of like narrates to us. She probably knew that he liked someone else, but she didn't bring it up. Cal talks about his two dads. His biological mom was a surrogate and a college friend of one of the dads. And the dad is a dean at the local college. And Ivy's mom is a professor at that college. And then okay, we'll get there when we get there. But something just popped in my brain saying that out loud about like theories. But anyway, so Ivy's mom's a professor at the college. And then she's receiving some sort of award for being awesome, whatever. So Cal basically describes that he has shallow friends and he doesn't really bring them around, and then that he's like a serial dater, which is, like I said, like kind of weird. I kind of, maybe this is just like my own personal brain doing this with the book, but I pictured him more as a nerd, but he sounds kind of like a ladies' man. But then it's like also implied that Mateo's like more of the ladies' man, like he went through a growth spurt over the summer and like he's really popular. So I don't know. We'll just have to kind of feel it out as we go. But where am I at? Okay. So Cal is waiting at the donut shop, which took like 40 minutes to get to with traffic. And then Lara, Lara, but I like to say it like that because Lara Croft, whatever. I forget her name later on here, so you're just going to have to bear with me. But the quote unquote new girlfriend says she can't make it. Something came up. So Cal explains that something comes up a lot, and he's not really that surprised. We will get into that towards the end of this section. But before he leaves, he's looking at a comic he drew when he was 12. Don't know why. Like, he just carries that on his person, but whatever. And it's about the greatest day ever. And he describes the other two. So he says, Ivy has brown hair, or not brown hair. Nope. Listen. Ivy has brown eyes and blonde hair, important here in a hot minute, and Mateo is tall, dark, and handsome. But in the comment, he made Mateo shorter and thinner and more of a sidekick. That's like kind of what I was getting into earlier. So Cal gets to school and he almost walks straight into Ivy, and he says that he's been like thinking about her, but like he knows she's not going to take that in a weird like flirty way because there's never been anything between them. They were always just friends, like whatever. So then she says that she's been thinking about him too, and they're talking about the last time they skipped, greatest day ever, whatever. Then they see Mateo pull up, and Cal waves him over to them, and they bring up the best day ever. It's, in the summary phase, it's a lot. But when you're reading it, it's not as much. As always, also, go buy this book. Go read it. It's great. I'll leave a link to Amazon where you can get it yourself. But anyway, so Cal suggests that they just skip school. Because why not? So he calls the office to report an absence. So he impersonates one of his dads. Hi, Cal's sick. Then he impersonates Ivy's dad. Hi, I'm a dean of a college and Ivy's sick. Then he makes Ivy pretend to be Mateo's mom, and she does a really good job. Hi, I'm Mateo's mom. He's sick. Whatever. So they ask where they should even go, and Cal's like, let's go to Boston. Obviously, I'll drive. Why obviously? I don't know, but that's what I wrote in my notes. Chapter 4. Ivy. So Ivy already feels like this is like a huge mistake. Obviously, she's kind of a goody two-shoes. No hate, just saying. I never even skipped school. I didn't even skip on senior skip day. Nerd. So Ivy and Cal makes... Cal? That's probably why my thing says his name is Cal. Ivy and Cal make small talk in the car while Mateo maybe sleeps in the back. Like, he has his eyes shut. I think he just doesn't want to socialize with them, but he also, like, doesn't want to go to school. I don't know. But anyway, Ivy's worried her parents are going to find out, or that her brother's going to notice she's not at school and, like, rat her out. So she's, like, moving around all uncomfortably. And then Mateo starts counting down and says, right on time, Ivy freaking out or whatever. And Cal tries to reassure her that, like, the school or their parents or whoever would have called by now. And then suggests that they go to Quincy Market and then check out the penguins at the aquarium, which penguins are amazing, but they don't go do that, so womp womp. But anyway, Mateo makes a comment that he works at a nearby bar, and then we get into that too. But Ivy asks how his family is and how his cousin is, and he just says, like, oh, like, they're fine, whatever. She's dating this dude named Gabe. I don't like him. Whatever. So then Ivy also talks about this underground list of, I don't know why this matters, but there's like this underground list of categories for seniors most likely, like, so in your yearbook, it's like most likely to be a TV show host or whatever, but like this is underground, like the students are just passing this along, so like most likely commit a felony, etc., etc. I don't know why they're talking about this, but I'll just bring it up in case it comes back around. But then they're talking about the bowling alley that Mateo's family owned. And he says that the kid that slipped didn't even break a bone and is back to playing lacrosse. So it's stupid that they lost the bowling alley over nothing. Also, this might be like way sidetracked, but I don't understand how a bowling alley would be liable for that if the kid's walking on the lanes, because you're not supposed to walk on the lanes. So I feel like walk on the lanes at your own risk, but I don't know how that works. But anyway, so if you do, send me a message. So Mateo gets kind of salty with Ivy saying, you probably know more about it than me because your dad obviously owns it now, blah, blah, blah. And then this is when Ivy tells us that she used to have a huge crush on Mateo. That's an ongoing theme. They kissed once. They never talked about it again. We get back to that later. Cal is ignoring the awkwardness in the car and excited to find a parking spot in a parking garage. Fancy pants. Also, like, I've never been to Boston, but I've been to like Chicago. I've been to like Omaha. I've been to cities. I've been, Oklahoma City. At 16, you would not catch me driving around the freaking city. I don't know. I guess I drove Indy when I was 16. Okay, maybe I'm a liar. Whatever. So maybe I just have anxiety now as like a 30-year-old millennial, but who cares? So Cal suggests they walk over to a coffee place, and it's kind of in like a rundown area, I guess. And while they're walking, one of Ivy's friends texting her, are you sick? Your brother's also asking where you are, saying mom and dad's gonna flip. And then the friend, whose name is Emily, not sure if she's important, she does text later on though, says that Boney Mahoney is not there either and asks if they're together, LOL, which obviously she's not because she hates him. And we're seeing it from their point of view. So then they bring back up the penguins, and Cal basically says that he's having like a mini crisis in life or whatever. I don't know. Whatever. Small talk. We'll get into like things will heat up here in a second. So then Cal asks them like, oh, have you guys been seeing anyone? And then Ivy's like, well, I met someone in Scotland over the summer because I'm rich. But like, whatever. It kind of just stops there. Like, I don't think they're actually like talking. And then Cal asks if Mateo's still dating Carmen. And Ivy's like, doesn't want to hear about it because they're the perfect couple, whatever. And Mateo basically says they broke up casually because they weren't having time to see each other because he's working a bunch, whatever. It just sounds like they're more friends than relationship, whatever. It's an opening for him and Ivy to bloom throughout the story. So the coffee shop has a huge line. So Cal's like, I think we can go to a nearby art studio. This will make sense later, but at the time you're like, why? But anyway, as they walk, Cal kind of explains his breakup with Noemi and then describes someone he has more in common with, but they're not officially dating. They like art and blah, blah, blah. You'll see. So then Ivy interrupts them and is pointing at what is Boney Mahoney doing here? Because she sees him crossing the street. So why the heck is he also in Boston? So then we have like a news thing at Carleton High School Media Lab. So it's basically a school news report, and there's two boys going back and forth summarizing that Boney Mahoney is not there for the student body president speech, and the teacher in the background's like, no curse words, no speculation, no nicknames, and the boys are like, no fun, or whatever. They narrate certain news things throughout, these two boys. Also did not write their names down. Sorry about that. Now I feel like I'm bad at my job. Chapter 5, Mateo. So it says, there we go, things are heating up. So we're getting there, I promise. So Ivy is seeing Boney Mahoney crossing the street, and she's like really upset. So she's going to follow him and yell at him because he's supposed to be giving a speech at school, like at the assembly, and this is not how a president acts. And like, obviously she's mad that she lost him, blah, 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 blah. So Mateo's like, who cares? But he knows Ivy's not going to give up. So it's like definitely Boney Mahoney. Like at first she thought, oh, that looks like him. But now like seeing him, it's like, oh crap, that's him. And he has his backpack on and his phone in hand. And he stops in front of this loft looking building, or like it looks like it has several lofts in it. And it has a bright green door, and he goes inside. And there's a code to the door or to the building. So obviously he knows the code. So he's like, click, 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 code, whatever. And then Cal's acting like super sketchy and weird. And he explains that his kind of girlfriend, I say kind of, you're going to see why, has an art studio in the building. Well, her friend lets her paint there, but it's an abandoned building. So like Ivy's real grumpy about this because her dad, who like owns buildings, not this one, but just in general. Well, I guess he might. We don't know who owns this building. She doesn't say that. But anyway, he wouldn't like squatters, and like obviously you should pay your rent and blah, blah, blah. It's a whole like Rent the Musical situation. How we gonna pay? Probably gonna cut that because that was embarrassing. Anyway, I'm probably gonna watch that later. So then Mateo asks a more important question to Cal, which was burning in my brain, and I'm glad they finally said it, but he said, oh, is she not in high school? And Cal says, not technically, and then dodges further questions. We'll get into it. Don't you worry. And Mateo says to us, like, actually, whose chapter is it? Oh, this is Mateo's chapter. So Mateo says to us that he can't picture an older girl going for Cal. I put LOL, because that's like kind of where I was at too with it. But anyway, Ivy asks Cal if his not girlfriend knows Boney Mahoney and if it's like a love triangle thing, and she like puts his hand on her shoulder. Is it a love triangle? Is this who you're like competing with? And Cal's like, no. And Ivy then she bullies the door code out of him, which is 5832 for funsies, just so everyone knows. And then while she's like charging into this building, Cal ducks into a nearby alley, and then Mateo follows him to be like, what is your problem? Why are you hiding? And then Cal says, like, it's not that he's hiding. It's more like she can't see you or Ivy, but he won't say more about it. And then Mateo's like, well, we have to go get Ivy. She can't just be like running around. And he's like, I know Boney Mahoney is like laid back, but he also has a temper, which he brings up a circumstance where Boney Mahoney lost his temper last year, whatever. And then like, obviously Ivy's upset. So it's just an all around like not a good situation. So both the boys head inside to find her, and it's quiet inside. Like, they don't hear anything, no yelling or anything. So Mateo's like, Ivy, like, where are you? And she sounds scared, and she's like, I'm upstairs. And Mateo's like, well, what floor? Where are you? And he's just racing up the stairs in this apartment building or whatever. And he gets to the 4th floor where he sees Ivy, and then like Cal's falling up behind him. And they look into this room that's clearly an art studio. And Ivy says, I think he might be there. And she points at like bright purple sneakers jutting out from behind a large rolling cabinet. And the sneakers, like the person wearing the sneakers is not moving. Mateo desperately tries to remember if Boney Mahoney was wearing purple shoes, because this could just be like a random person in the building. So then Cal comes up behind Mateo and almost gets punched in the face because Mateo's on edge, super scared, and the situation is really intense. But anyway, Mateo asks Ivy if she's gone any closer, because it sounds like she's just inside the doorway. And she says no, she's afraid someone else was like in there, although she didn't see anyone. Then they hear sirens in the distance, and then Ivy moves a bit closer, then gasps and collapses. She passes out. Mateo tries to wake her, but clearly she's fainted, and he almost laughs and says she's still afraid of needles. And they don't really get into that, but I'm sure there's like a blood drive or something at school where she fainted. But he sees a syringe lying on the floor a few feet away from them. So then Mateo instructs Cal to grab Ivy's phone, which is on the floor. I have a note ding, 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 that I think it's Bonnie Mahoney's phone, not Ivy's phone. We'll get into that, though. And then Cal says something is off, something's wrong as the sirens get closer. And Mateo's like, well, no, duh, something's wrong. Obviously, there's an unconscious Ivy that I'm holding, and there's a freaking syringe, and then there's a shoe dead body situation. Spoiler alert, this person's dead. Like, they don't know that, but I'm telling you because we get there. But, like, obviously something's wrong. And Cal says, like, the police are pulling up. How did they even know to be here already? Like, he walked in, Ivy walked in, we walked in right behind, and the police are already here? Like, that's crazy. So then they can hear the police breaking glass downstairs to get in the building, because obviously they don't have the code, whatever. And Cal's like, we gotta go. And Mateo's like, how? And Cal's like, well, there's a back stairway that leads out to a different street. They're discussing it, and just for like character development, or like how the book is, how it's written, is like everyone moving forward, like the three of them, they all struggle to say like Bonnie Mahoney's name, because like putting a name to it means he's actually dead. But anyway, Mateo tells the audience that he's only been in the room one other time with a dead body. It was his old uncle Hector, who died of like natural causes, whatever. But he basically says, like, which this is true, because like obviously I've lost my dad. You can tell when the person passes away. There is a shift in the body, call that their spirit or soul or whatever, but like you can see the difference. So he's saying, hey, this person is dead. So anyway, Cal said, oh, okay. So then Cal's like, we don't need to say anything to the police. They're going to see what we saw. We don't have anything helpful to add. They're going to see the sneakers and the syringe. Like, we're just in the wrong place, the wrong time. Like, we got to go. Also, they're going to be able to give medical help, which we can't or won't, whatever. They're teenagers. So then Mateo doesn't really want to get on a suspect list for the police. It's heavily implied it's because he's not white and he's poor, which valid. Also, he does say that he doesn't want them looking into his family. His cousin obviously participates in some shady dealings. So then Mateo also notes that it's odd that the syringe is so far away from the body, which I also noticed that, like, if someone was just shooting up, it would be on their person or in their hand or next to them, etc. Mateo hoists Ivy into his arms and follows Cal into the back stairwell. Chapter 6, Cal. So they flee into the alley, and Cal's like freaking out, and he starts talking about knowing, like, well, he's like narrating to us about knowing Bonnie Mahoney since kindergarten and how he got his nickname. So, like, long story short, there were cubby holes with their names labeled on it, and some girl tripped, spilled her water, and it washed away part of his name. So all that was left was the B from Brian, that's his first name, and the Oni, O-N-E-Y, from Mahoney. So then it turned into Boney. Obviously, it got combined. Whatever. I don't care. Read the book. Okay, I promise you. Just go read it. So then Cal also talks about how Bonnie Mahoney was an entrepreneur in junior high, and he would like buy cheap candy and then sell it to kids for more. And he was like determined and like could be going somewhere. But then once they got into high school, he became a burnout. So then back to like reality. Mateo jogs across the street and there's some cars, and he's still holding Ivy unconscious in his arms, but like no one sees them. It's just like kind of stressful when you're reading it, but I'm just going to fly through it because it's kind of no consequence. But he gets the idea. He's like, we're close to the bar I work at. I have a key. The owner shouldn't be there till 2. I think they said it was like 10 o'clock. It's like morning. They say that later. So anyway, so they get to this bar and he lays Ivy on this couch. Well, it might be a booth. Whatever. She's still unconscious and the boys are like making small talk. So then Mateo's like, Cal, was that your girlfriend's loft? Because there was like art stuff in it. And Cal had mentioned earlier that his not girlfriend is always there on that day of the week. I think it's a Thursday, and because the lighting's always right and blah, blah, blah. But he didn't see her that day, obviously. And then Mateo like questions him about this, and Cal starts texting this kind of not girlfriend. And she says to him that she couldn't make it to the studio that day because she took a ceramics class. And then she sends him a picture of the pot or whatever that she made in class. He tells her that he needs to talk to her in person. It's urgent, but she hasn't responded yet up until this point. So then Cal asks if Mateo thinks that what had happened back there has made it on the news yet. So Mateo turns on the bar or the TV at the bar, which, like, I feel like 15 minutes have passed, so I don't even know how this would be on the news. I do have theories about that, though. I need to add that. Don't let me forget, you boys. So anyway, lurking questions. We'll get there. So so they turn on the TV. So there's a breaking news story, and the newscaster's in front of the art studio, and this is like a quote from the book, but it says, police are actively looking for information related to a tip that they received shortly before the body of an unidentified young man was discovered in this very building. Art building. Both the police and the news team received this tip, which is obviously super weird, and was from the killer, like, let's be honest. But doesn't say that. We're speculating. We've read enough of these, haven't we? So Cal starts to say that this means, like, if they saw the body, and he can't bring himself to say Boney's name, but, like, Mateo interrupts him and is like, still unidentified. Like, it's maybe not him. Maybe it's just some random dude. Then it says to read page 66 of the news report. Page 66, news report. This anonymous source stated that they became concerned after seeing a young blonde woman inject the man with a syringe, after which he immediately became unresponsive. The building, which is not clearly occupied, does not have security cameras enabled, so the public is being asked to call with any information related to a blonde woman described as attractive and possibly in her early 20s who may have been in the area during this time. Bum, bum, bum. So, like, clearly, Ivy's blonde. She went in the building after Boney Mahoney. And they're seniors, so they gotta be 18. So early 20s from afar, not super far-fetched. Okay, but we don't think it's Ivy. She's a narrator. Whatever. Chapter 7. Ivy. Why did I say it like that? I feel like I'm an announcer like pro wrestling. But anyway. So at first, like Ivy pops up. I didn't even say that at the end of last chapter, but she pops up and she's like, what's going on? So at first she doesn't really remember anything except for leaving school with the boys, but then it all comes rushing back and she remembers everything. And she's also like kind of confused because she doesn't know where she's at. And they like explain like, blah, 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 we're at the bar. And then Cal asks if she remembers why she fainted. And she's like, because I saw a syringe. She's afraid of needles. No, hey, if you're afraid of needles, but like, that's insane that you literally just faint when you see one. I don't know anything that just makes me faint like that. The audacity. So then, whose chapter this? This is Ivy's chapter. So she's like, what happened to the guy on the floor? And the boys are like, we don't really know. It's complicated. They explain that they ran from the police, essentially, blah, blah, blah. And Ivy's like, we fled a crime scene? Like, what the heck? And then they're like, well, you were unconscious, so sorry we couldn't really consult you on it. And we made the decisions we made because, etc., all the things I said last chapter. So then she's like, okay, but like, should we at least go to the police and say we saw someone, like we saw Boney Mahoney go into the building? And then she sees the boys stiffen up because she hasn't put two and two together that like Boney Mahoney, like she saw him go in the building and then they saw a dead body. So Mateo tells her like whoever they saw is dead, like is in fact dead. They saw a news report. Like I think at that point she thought maybe they were just like passed out or something. And Ivy's like, well, then Boney Mahoney's died. Like, that's who I saw. And they're like, well, why? Why do you say that? And she's like, because I remember seeing his stupid purple shoes and it annoyed me when he took the stage to the auditorium when we were doing the debate or whatever. That's how she knows. Then Ivy is being comforted by Mateo, but she's like, I can't cry. And she kind of goes into how she has like a little bit of a crush on him, or she says used to, but it's ongoing. They're going to end up together. We know. Kind of wish one of them would die, if I'm going to be totally honest, at the end of these books. That would be a fun twist. But anyway, so they told her, like, hey, we found out through this news report. So then she, like, looks up the TV and she sees the news report, like, it's paused and she sees the news reporter. So she starts talking about this news reporter. His name is Dale Hawkins, and I feel like he's going to be important later on because they give us, like, a lot of information. Ivy's parents know him through going to like similar fundraisers and stuff. And he used to be a reporter at one of the Boston networks, but there was like some sort of contract dispute. So he left the local cable and started his own news. But Ivy's dad doesn't really like that and says it's more like sensationalized, like he's a sensationalized informant. This guy, Dale, has done a few unflattering features on Ivy's dad, basically saying, like, corporate bigwigs steamroll local businesses or whatever. So then Ivy registers that, like, Dale is standing outside the building they were just at. This, I'm going to call it the art building so we know what we're talking about, but, like, where the crime took place. They must hit play on the news because I have a quote from it, and it says, the public is being asked to call with any information related to a blonde... Oh, well, I just kind of read this. Public is being asked to call with any information related to a blonde woman described as attractive and possibly in her early 20s who may have been in the area during the time. So Mateo points out, like, hey, Ivy, you have blonde hair. And you could have easily been spotted in this location. Like, obviously, we were outside this building. He's not like accusing her, but he's just saying like that's who they could be talking about. And Ivy's like, well, I'm not in my early 20s. And she doesn't want him to say anything. Like, she's like, and also like, are you calling me attractive? Because they describe this girl as attractive. But anyway, she understands why it would point to her. And she's grateful that Mateo and Cal took her out of the building before police would come, because then if this report, obviously she'd look more guilty, etc., etc. Ivy asks if there's any chance that Boney Mahoney could have just like overdosed on his own, but they all kind of decide that it's not really likely. Like, if he was going to shoot up drugs, he wouldn't drive all the way to Boston to do it. Like, he would have just done it in his car at 10 a.m. So then they ask if Ivy heard or saw anyone else in the building, and she says no. But then when she's thinking back, she's like, why did I head upstairs if I didn't see anyone? She's like, I must have heard something or someone, but I was so mad I wasn't even thinking. I just charged up to the 4th floor, which I feel like that's valid. So then Ivy asks Cal, she's like, okay, so the girl that uses the studio, is she blonde? Like, pfft. And Cal dodges the question, and she's like, she wasn't there. I already talked to her. She wasn't there. So they press Cal more, and he changes the subject, and he's like, oh, I have your phone, Ivy. And Ivy takes her phone out of her backpack, and she's like, no, you don't. I have mine right here. It's got this sparkly girl case. Like, duh. And the one you have is plain black and sucks. So they realize that the phone is either Boney Mahoney's or the murderer. But either way, they have a phone they should not have. And they're trying to figure out, like, should we drop it off at the police? Should we mail it? Like, what should we do? But before they can decide what to do, Cal abruptly is like, I gotta go to the bathroom, and disappears for a hot minute. Then Mateo and Ivy are discussing Cal's, like, odd behavior and how this artist girlfriend, not girlfriend's probably involved. And Ivy, like, this part's kind of drawn out. They're literally just building the relationship. And I'm not, like, annoyed of it from, like, just as a casual reader. I'm annoyed by it because, like, podcasting-wise, it's, like, hard to explain. But anyway, just go read the book for the 3rd time today. So Ivy's joking, oh, I need a drink. And Mateo pours her, like, a tiny, tiny splash of Maker's Mark at her request. And it's, like, this whole, like, blah, 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 setting the floor for romance. Whatever. So then, like, while they're sitting there, they try to unlock the phone. She's like, his password's probably really easy. 123. He's an idiot. Whatever. They try that. Doesn't work. She's like, try his name. Whatever. What are they going to do? T9 it? Like, throwback. Anyway, before they can try anything else, Cal comes out of the bathroom and he announced, I gotta go for a bit. I'm not going to tell you why. I'm being sketchy. So then Ivy's like, oh, so you're going to go see the blonde woman, the murderer, the potential murderer? And Cal's like, I never said she was blonde, but also she is. Cal's like, I never said she was blonde. And then Ivy's like, well, you didn't have to. Like, I know. You're not saying she's not. And then she's like, does she know Boney Mahoney? And Cal just says, oh, it's complicated. I'll explain after I talk to her. I promise. I'll come back in an hour. I'll meet you back here in an hour. And then Ivy's like, no, you can't freaking go. And Mateo's like, just let him go. Like, this is going to cause more problems than anything. Or whatever. So then Cal's like, fine, okay, I'm gonna go. I'll text you guys when I come back. Don't worry. And then Cal leaves. And then Mateo looks at Ivy because she's like, for real. And then he's like, dude, we're gonna follow him. Don't worry about it. Chapter 8. Mateo. So Cal's red hair apparently makes him real easy to track through the city. And he's also a oblivious, stupid boy. Sorry for all my oblivious, stupid boys out there, but you know you don't pay attention to the people around you. So as they're following Cal, Mateo kind of talks about his family a little bit more. And Mateo's mom was the only child in her family ever to leave New York. Obviously, they're somewhere outside of Boston. And the grandmother comes to visit, and she always tries to get them to move back. Like, she wants to help them, like, especially after the divorce, which we find out... This is so stupid. Mateo's dad ran off to be a roadie for a cover band, not even an actual band. So that's fun. But anyway, he went to go get the milk, never came back. So then the grandma's like, I'll help you out. I'll give you money. You can come stay with me. And Mateo's mom's always like, we're doing fine. So then when the grandmother reaches out to Mateo, he's like, we're good. We're doing fine. It's just setting the stage, right? So as they're walking, Ivy and Mateo are receiving a ton of text messages from people from school. And basically they're like, Boney Mahoney's dead. There's rumors flying around. Mateo's ex-girlfriend goes as far as to say, like, oh, don't you think it's a coincidence? Like a weird coincidence that Ivy also missed school? Like, implying that she had something to do with it. And Ivy knows that people have to be gossiping about her. But Mateo's like, no one said anything about you. So then Ivy, I'm assuming she gets a message from her mom saying that their plane is about to take off from San Francisco. So Ivy has 6 hours to fix everything before they land, and she has to announce her mom at the ceremony. So Cal gets onto the subway. They both get onto the subway in a different car, but they can see him. Ivy's asking Mateo, like, should we talk about what we should be telling people, like, where we were out at today? Because, like, obviously none of us were at school. And Mateo's like, one thing at a time, we got to figure out this Cal thing first. Like, this is too much. And then they go back to talking about their friendship a lot or whatever. And Mateo goes into a story about how they went on the field trip when they were all friends, etc., etc. Greatest day ever. It's not that important. It's just character development. Go read the book. So then Ivy and Mateo, well, Cal gets off at the last stop, so they follow him. And then Cal doesn't notice they're following him, probably because he's stressed, whatever. So he ends up at the 2nd Street Cafe. I'm assuming it's on 2nd Street. Better be, or that's some weird marketing. So then in the cafe, there's a blonde girl wearing a baseball cap waiting for Cal. And then as they're falling in, Ivy's like, look, I knew it. A blonde lady. I knew she's blonde. And then she like kind of pauses and she's like, wait, is that? So then Teo says, like, 1, we know her. 2, she is not the right age for Cal. And then Ivy's like, yeah. Ivy starts asking a million questions. Why is he meeting her? Why isn't she at school? Do you think she knows about his mystery girlfriend? Like, idiot. That is his mystery girlfriend. But then they see Cal grab this woman's hands and they intertwine their fingers and he kisses her knuckles. And then the woman pulls away, but not out of like shock that he kissed her hands. More of like, yeah, we can't do this right here. So then Ivy turns to Mateo and is like, why is Cal holding hands with our art teacher? Why do we do this? Why do we always do inappropriate relationships in books? This is the cheerleaders all over again. Stop dating your teachers. Fun fact, don't date your teachers. We're just no more. That's the Jolly Reader rule. You cannot date your teachers. So Mateo explains to us that, like, this teacher's backstory. So her name is Ms. Jameson, and she started working at Carleton High 2 years ago, right after she graduated college. So she's young. Everyone thinks she's super hot, whatever. Mateo also talks about, like, the last kind of attractive teacher they had in the school, and she was a Spanish teacher, and she was at least 30 and looks like someone's mom on a TV show. I resemble that remark, and I don't appreciate it. Don't date your teachers. I hope teenagers don't find me attractive. Sorry, not sorry. So apparently, at one point, Mateo's dad hit on this teacher in the grocery store. It's kind of a long story, but, like, his dad was back in town from being a groupie or whatever. He sees her. Mateo's like, please don't say anything stupid. And then he's like, that's my art teacher, or like, she works at the school. And then the dad's like, well, they didn't make it like that when I was back in school, whatever, while she's walking away. So long story short, Mateo's been avoiding her class since forever. He doesn't take her class because of it. But, like, art's never been more popular in school. He also says, like, the jocks are mostly the ones that brag about doing stuff with her, but he never really paid attention to those rumors because last winter she got engaged to the lacrosse coach, Coach Kendall, who is described as the human equivalent of a golden retriever. He is a true victim in this story. Okay, so Mateo is like, why is she even here? Why isn't she at school? She's a teacher, obviously. And Ivy's like, well, there's no art on Tuesdays. Oh, it must be a Tuesday. I think I said Thursday last time. But anyway, Ivy's like, there's no art on Tuesday because of budget cuts. Duh. And Mateo's like, well, I don't pay attention to that, but okay. So then they're both like, did you take her class? No. Did you? Blah, blah, blah. No. So, like, I already explained why Mateo didn't. Ivy didn't because she's too busy taking, like, non-electives to get into college. Whatever. So then Mateo does mention that his cousin Autumn did take her class and said, oh, this teacher's really nice, really encouraging. And Ivy's like, yeah, she is real encouraging, all right. Really does that extra, I was trying to make a good joke. Kind of lost it. Extracurriculars outside of school with their students for bonus points. There, did it, nailed it. So, Mateo asks if Cal's parents know about this. I don't know why he would ask that because that's stupid. And Ivy's like, no, especially not his dad, Wes, because he would die. Apparently, Wes, the dad, is a dean at Carleton College. So I think I did mention that because that's where Ivy's mom works. But they recently fired a professor for sleeping with a student. And Wes was, since he's a dean, he was like interviewed and he was like, this is totally inappropriate. So then if it came out that his son was seeing a teacher, it'd be super hypocritical and obviously bad for his career, et cetera, et cetera. Also bad for other reasons that I shouldn't have to explain. So then Ivy basically lays out that because, I kind of forgot the teacher's last name. Is it Jameson? Whatever, the art teacher. Ivy basically lays out that because of these certain things, the teacher has 3 strikes against her. So she's blonde. She works at that studio where the dead body was found. on Tuesdays normally, even though supposedly she wasn't there. She knows Boney Mahoney from school. At least she should know of him, whether he took her class or not, which we're not really sure of at this point. And then she adds a fourth point. Obviously, like, whatever she's doing with Cal is like a strike against her because she's a bad judgment. She has bad judgment. So Mateo asks if they should move closer and try to listen. It's like, well, we should do that, but we should also do something else. Wink. We don't find out exactly, but like, obviously they're up to something. So then there's another news report, the two news reporter kids, but they do YouTube Carlton Speaks channel. Two students that do the news do it in secret in one of their cars since they don't want to be supervised by the teacher. And the chapter or the section in the book is like them speaking back and forth, but I'm just going to summarize. They announced that the news had reported that Brian Boney Mahoney died in an abandoned building in Boston. But like, time out. Why is the news reporting like full name like a half hour after it happened? Maybe an hour. Like, are we going to notify his parents? Also, he's a minor, more than likely. Like, what? So anyway, they're like, okay, so he died in an abandoned building. And then the other kid's like, or was killed by a blonde chick. And then they kind of start bickering like, we're not supposed to say like that kind of stuff. And then the kid's like, well, I think it's weird that Ivy never misses school. But then she does miss the day the guy who totally humiliated her dies or is murdered. And then they also say that no one's heard from Ivy, not even her own brother. And then one of them says they shouldn't be using name. This is just speculation. The other one says, well, she's super intense. Would you even be surprised if she snapped one day? And the other kid's like, well, yeah, you're kind of right. I don't know if like Ivy sees this report or this is just something given to the authors. The readers. Chapter 9. 2 more chapters. We got this. So Cal tells us that it's only been a few weeks since they've been meeting up outside of class, like with his teacher. Like, he's just telling the reader this. And he can tell that she is annoyed with him because he tried to like grab her hands in public. Obviously a problem. But he said he's had a crush on her since she like started working at the school, but never expected to go anywhere, especially after she got engaged to the lacrosse teacher, whatever, coach. But he said this whole situation started, so like his senior year when he asked for advice on college art programs, and she was like, okay, take my number and I'll help you with it, which what the heck. So it took him hours to like compose a text. He was so nervous, but he like texted her, asked him about college applications, but then it turned into talking about more hopes and dreams, plans for the future, etc., etc. Likes and dislikes, who cares? So he describes himself as like obsessed with her. And then he talks about the first time that the art teacher called him on the phone. And she's like, I was thinking about your face. It's so wonderful with the angles and stuff. I want to draw you sometime. So then they meet at this art studio that's like not hers, but she works in it or whatever, to be sketched. And she keeps touching his face, like moving him around, making adjustments, but like nothing else has happened. There, like, nothing happened then and nothing else has happened since, but he feels like it's only a matter of time. I have comments on this. I didn't write them down. I literally just wrote a note. I have comments on this. I feel weird about this because I can't quite tell. Like, obviously, texting a student, meeting him one-on-one, physically touching him in that way, all inappropriate, not justifying it. But also, like, realistically, she has not fully crossed a line. Like, I don't necessarily think she would lose her job over this if this was, like, real world. I think she'd probably be, like, suspended. Not condoning any of this, just saying that it's kind of this weird gray area. Because as of right now, he has a huge crush on her. And I feel like she reciprocates the feelings, but she could turn around at this point and be like, I'm engaged. I'm a teacher. He's just a kid with a fantasy. I was just trying to help him with school stuff. Like, I feel like she could talk herself out of this. But anyway, you guys have been listening long enough to know my feelings on this. Don't date your teachers. So anyway, he tries to justify this quote unquote relationship because there's only a 7-year age gap and his aunt and uncle have over 10 years gap. No, that doesn't justify anything because 50 and 40 aren't as different as whatever. I'm not going to 18 and 25 probably. Or no, he's not quite 18 because he talks about, oh, my 18th birthday is coming up, so it's going to be fine. So we're talking 17 and 23. That's too much. And she's his teacher. I'm okay. This episode would be 2.5 hours if I just went off on it. So anyway, he also knows his dads will flip out, especially after this like college professor situation at his dad's school. Okay, so also the college professor thing and the student, like, they're both adults in this situation. So I don't really know, but there's no like criminal like he wasn't hooking up with a minor, so there's no like criminal from that standpoint. But the dad explains like it's a power difference, so that's like the problem. Like he's her professor, have sex with me, I'll give you an A. That's a power difference. So then that he's like, that's why the school has policies in place to like prevent these kind of relationships. And then the dad says like, you know, I always question the judgments and motives of adults who get involved with teenagers, which I guess is what I've been ranting about for the last half hour. But anyway, the dad says wrong is wrong. And throughout the rest of this time, so Cal kind of tells us like he had this conversation with his dad a while back. And then Cal repeats throughout the chapter, wrong is wrong. So whenever he tries to justify it, or every time he waves at her fiance, wrong is wrong. That kind of pops up in his head. So anyway, Miss whoever her name is, teacher lady, not even worth learning her name. It's Laura, actually, now that I just thought about it. But anyway, interrupts Cal's thoughts on all this and is like, what is going on? And he asked her, he's like, where were you this morning? She's like, I was doing that pottery thing. And he was like, but you're always at the studio on that day. And she's like, well, there was an opening in this class, so I took it. And then he was like, well, I was at the studio this morning with some friends. And she's like, I'm sorry I disappointed you, because she stood him up at the donut shop or whatever. But that's no reason to come to the studio with your friends. Like, obviously, that's super risky and stupid. So he tells her that he wasn't looking for her, but then he, like, admits to us that, like, maybe he was trying to catch a glimpse of her, because when they went to Boston, he was suggesting areas around, like, where she hangs out. So he wasn't, like, stalking her, but like, oh, if we run into each other, wouldn't be the worst thing. But also that's stupid, because he has 2 of his classmates with him. But anyway, then he tells her Bodie Mahoney was at your studio as well, and she's like, well, who's that? And he tells her Brian Bodie Mahoney, he's from school. And she's like, okay, so like what's up about him? Like, so it sounds like she does know him. They don't really get too much into it. I don't know how big the school's supposed to be, but like, anyway, Cal tells her like he died in your studio, and there's a news article about it saying that some blonde chick injected him with drugs. Like, bro, we got problems. And Laura, she is visibly upset, and he's kind of explaining like, okay, me and my friends were there. This is what we saw. We fled the scene, whatever. And she was like, well, I was at the Art Education Center on Mass Ave until about 10 minutes ago, so I didn't do it. I don't know. I don't know if I believe that or not, but we'll get into that. Before Cal can say anything else, they hear the like plates crashing and then a waiter trying to pick up the plates, blah, blah, blah. That's important. Don't worry. So Cal then asks Laura about the person who owns the studio, and she's like, well, he's out of town. And he, throughout this, is feeling like a ping of jealousy. And I'm like, she has a fiance. You're not jealous of the fiance, but some dude that's not even in town. Like, so anyway, Laura asks, like, which friends were you with? And did you tell them about me? Like, or whatever, that we meet outside of school. And he tells her both their names, and no, I didn't tell them, blah, blah, blah. She's like, blah, 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 you can't tell. Promise I won't. Who cares? So then she says she's got to call this friend that owns the studio, figure out what's going on. Like, he needs to know the situation, because they're not supposed to be using it because it's an abandoned building, whatever. And also, it's an issue because she just met with this student, being Cal, outside of school recently. So she goes to get something out of her bag, and the whole bag's missing. So this part's kind of long, but like, long story short, she goes up, her and Cal go up to the counter to ask the barista dude who's kind of flirting with her, who Cal hates, if anyone turned up her red bag, blah, blah, blah. He pulls out her bag, and it's like a female accidentally grabbed it and then returned it to me up front. Not confirming this. It's not confirmed yet, but obviously Ivy took it and did something, because she's implying that they should be doing something, and it's implied in the next chapter. We will get there. So she makes sure her wallet, keys, phone's all there. It is. And then Laura's phone starts ringing, and she's like, oh, this is Dominic. I have to take this. This is who owns the art building or whatever. She like leaves. And then Cal gets back on the train. I'm assuming he's going back to the bar. But then Mateo taps him on the shoulder, and him and Ivy, and they sit down next to him, and they're like, all right, so we followed you. Chapter 10, Ivy. So this is the last chapter of this section. So Cal is mad, obviously, that they followed him, and is like, you guys were spying on me. That sucks. Which I don't really feel like he has a leg to stand on, but whatever. So Ivy says to us that that's not all they did, not even close, but this isn't the time to bring that up or whatever. I wonder if they put the cell phone in her bag. I'm just throwing that out there now, because that'd be crazy. But anyway, so Cal says meeting the teacher, meeting Laura or whatever, was no big deal. They're just talking about a midterm project. I was trying to meet someone else. They never showed, and she was there. So I was like, I'm going to talk about my midterm, even though I just witnessed a dead body. That's a stupid lie to them. So then Ivy's like, well, we were sitting behind you. We heard the whole thing, and we saw you holding hands. So like, knock it off. And Cal's like, well, it's complicated. We haven't done anything. You wouldn't understand. And Ivy is like real mad. And she's like, well, do you think Laura's fiance would understand? Because this is wrong. So they go kind of back and forth about that. So then she tells us that Coach Kendall, the fiance, is one of her parents' friends, and he like always comes to these Christmas parties and stuff, and he's just like a really nice guy. And when she goes on about like school policies, he's like the one teacher that actually cares to listen and stuff, whatever. So then Ivy's like, you're not even in a real relationship, like not even close. Like whatever you think you have, this is not it. And Cal's like, okay, Ivy, when's the last time you had a boyfriend? And then he says the meanest thing ever, and I don't appreciate this. So here's a quote from the book. Was it in 8th grade when you planted one on Mateo and he never mentioned it again? Can't blame him. He probably didn't want to hear about it in excruciating detail like I did for 2 months straight. And Cal says this in front of Mateo. What a dick. So then Cal tells them, like, you can plan your own way home. I'm taking the bus to wherever to get my car. And if you tell anyone about Laura, I'll tell them that I saw you go in after Boney in that building. Like, not necessarily say she did anything, but like, you know, obviously don't tell about this teacher or I'll say you were. Then Cal tells them, go to hell. And he goes, sits as far away from them as possible because they're on the train. So then the next part is kind of drawn out and it's just like building up the relationship between Ivy and Mateo. So I'm going to do just like the super short version of it. Mateo says to Ivy, like, what do you mean I never mentioned it? Because I left you a note at your house with sugar babies, which is a candy that, like, they describe as an old person candy. I freaking love sugar babies. Shut up. They're like sugar daddies, but smaller. Anyway, he used to make fun of her for liking them, blah, blah, blah. He left a note with sugar babies on her porch after they kissed. Oh, I guess I, like, kind of skipped it, how they went into this kiss. Like, they were, I want to say middle schoolers, and they were, like, hanging out, and he was, like, pushing her on the swings, and blah, 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 and there was a moment, and they kissed. Whatever. Read the book. It's fine. So then she kind of comes to the conclusion that Daniel, her brother, must have taken the candy, like, saw it on the porch, took the candy, threw away the note, because he's a stupid boy, whatever. And then she talks about, to us, the audience, about, like, her parents. Like, I guess, this is, like, I feel like it's going to be important. I just feel like it's kind of drawn out. But anyway, they got Daniel tested to be gifted or whatever, or to see if he's gifted, and she overheard her parents one night talking about it, and they're like, well, we don't want to make Ivy feel like less, but she's felt like less ever since, whatever. Then what? Then I asked what Potato wrote in the note. Mateo, not Potato. Okay, sorry. So then Ivy asked what Mateo wrote in the note, and he's like, well, I asked you if you wanted to get a king-size sugar baby candy at the Infinity War premiere, like the movie premiere, which is ironic because she ended up going to see that with her brother, so she's real mad about that. She receives a text on her phone from one of her friends that says the principal is saying the police are coming to the school later, which that seems obvious. And they kind of are like, well, if the three of us separate now, like, we're screwed. Like, he's a liability. We gotta figure this out. So they both kind of decide that they need to, like, go talk to Cal and chill out and be friends again because they're stuck in this situation. So Ivy doesn't want to say sorry because, like, she's not sorry. You shouldn't be dating a teacher, like, whatever. But she goes up to Cal and she's like, I shouldn't have said what I said. She won't do it again, like, sneaking around following him. And Cal, like, he feels bad too. And he's like, I'm sorry about the stuff about you and Mateo. I don't know why I did that. And one of them asks, like, do you want to go get food or whatever? And they're like, cool. Okay, let's go get food. Like, no big deal. I don't know. They kind of get over it. And then Ivy's like, well, where do you want to go eat? And Cal's like, I have a place in mind. Just promise me one more thing. No more surprises. And Ivy's like, absolutely. But then she says to us to end the chapter, I've already broken that promise, but they'll deal with that later. So let's do some lingering questions. Okay, so the obvious first question, whose phone do they have? Do they have the killer's phone or the victim's phone? But then, as I stated earlier, did they put the phone in art teacher lady's purse or did they put something else? Originally, like, I was kind of thinking a note, but as I'm recording this, I'm like, they probably put the phone in there. That's what I would have done. Dump that freaking phone. Well, okay, because not that she did anything, but it's like, she's dating a student. Who cares? What was the other thing I was going to say that I was like, don't let me forget? Well, I have this and I said, I think the parents are going, or at least some of the parents are going to be involved, or there's going to be something bigger with the adults in the story because we talk about that news reporter and, like, his beef with the dad, Ivy's dad. And then we talk about, like, Ivy's parents' connection, well, to, like, literally everyone, but, like, Cal's parents, and then the whole, like, dean situation, and then we have this other adult being the art teacher. I just think there's a lot happening with them. There's a lot of information given. Then, like, another obvious question, I guess, is, like, why was Boney Mahoney there? Clearly, she's probably having a relationship with him too. I mean, honestly. But like, then why was he shot up with drugs? Also, like, did her husband do it? I could see that. Her husband just being jelly belly. I don't know. We'll see. I don't. Anyway, I'm gonna do my closing. Oh, well, okay. Now is the point where I'll give you a life update because I know it's been over a year since I recorded an episode. So if you'd like to skip ahead, that's fine. Not gonna hurt my feelings, but I do know a lot of people do like to know about it. So as y'all know, I went through a divorce, so I started working, and I eventually got hired as a manager of a $1 million store for a coffee shop. I won't name the coffee shop, but it's not Starbucks. And I had like 40 employees, and it was super stressful, and I had really crappy hours. I was getting up at like 3:30 in the morning, and I wasn't seeing my kiddo, who is always at the end of the episodes saying, "My name's Allie." So anyway, I got a new job working from home. So that's what I do now. I am an operations manager for a home renovation company. So I'm really excited about that. But obviously, and my boss knows this, so he's not going to hate. I don't think he listens to this, though. That would be embarrassing. Like, this podcast, I love it. And it's something I really want to do. It's like a passion of mine. So I'm happy to get back to it. I just needed to get my life a little more stable. It's hard being an adult. Also, another thing coming up. So right now it's the end of, there she is, the Pipple. It's the middle of December, but beginning of January, I'm going back to school for my master's in marketing focused on analytics and customer. Oh, hold on. Embarrassing. I don't even know what my own degree's in. Hold on. I'll just say it all professionally. Maybe. Marketing research and the analytics. So that's what I'll be studying. I'll be doing for the next 1.5 to 2 years. Probably not even that long. So hopefully that all goes well. Like I said, I'm excited to get back into the Jolly Reader, if I'm being completely honest. So, and I'm still with my boyfriend, Sean. He's a cool dude, 2.5 years. So in closing, thanks for listening. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. And I think I'm going to start releasing the podcast episodes a day early on YouTube. You can also find me at the Jolly Reader Podcast. Subscribe so you get notifications for new episodes are posted. And the next 2 episodes will be a week apart. So next week you'll have an episode, and then the week after you'll have an episode. If you're on Apple, please leave a review because it helps other crewmates find this podcast. Share with everyone you know. Say, "Oh my gosh, the Jolly Reader's back. We're so happy." Donate. There's a link in the show notes. That helps me buy books. If you like secondhand embarrassment, stay tuned for the outtakes. And I will talk to you next time for part 2 of What the Heck is this book called? Because I don't even think I said it at the beginning. You'll Be the Death of Me by Karen M. McManus. Until we sail again, this has been the Jolly Reader. Bon voyage. Hey, you made it to the outtakes. Let's do it. You guys, I never hit record on the video part. So I literally just have the audio for the podcast. I'm really sorry. You're just going to get audio. I look so cute today too. Gosh darn it. Why did I do this to myself? I hate everything. Okay, love you. Bye. Testing this one more time. Make sure I'm not screaming. I will be screaming, to say. Also, our, what the heck is... He has a cousin. Why can't I speak today? Slipped on an overwaxed bowling alley. Sorry, reading. And he's eating a Cheeto dusted bovine. That's not it. He's eating a Well, we're gonna have outtakes today, folks. Kyle. Who's Kyle? Cal. My notes typoed again. I got a lot of hand movements going today. Anyway, Mateo. So while Ivy interprets them. Wait, nope, that's not what that says. It's Carlton High School. Wow, why did I say it like that? So Mateo hoists. Why can't I speak? Oh, hold on. Oh, my friend just texted me. Shout out to my bestie Kayla. I don't know if she listens to this podcast. Probably not. Okay. Anyway. So then Ivy is being like confronted by Mateo about like you followed him in there, like obviously, or I said confronted. No. So his Why am I getting a call? And it's a spam call. Hold on. Okay. So then, I'll have to read that here in a minute. But we're almost done, so let's just get through it. Wait, what? Okay. So, okay. Did I skip a chapter? This is just a really long chapter. Oh, it's just a really long chapter. Okay. I don't know why I thought that was the end of the chapter. San Francisco. Okay. And this is his chapter, right? No, this is Ivy's chapter. What? Does he say this out loud? Oh no, this is Mateo's chapter. What is wrong with me right now? Sorry. Not Austin. Was it in 8th grade when you planted one on Mateo and you never mentioned it again? Wait, and he never mentioned. That was a typo. Hold on, restart. Cal's like, okay, Mateo,
I am Allie, and you were listening to my mom.